The 1979 revolution, which brought together Iranians across many different social groups, has its roots in Iran's long history. This group, which includes clergy, landowners, intellectuals, and merchants, had previously come together in a constitutional revolution between 1905 to 1911. Efforts towards satisfactory reform were continually stifled. However, amid emerging social tension as well as foreign intervention from Russia, the United Kingdom, and later the United States, the United Kingdom helped Reza Shah establish a monarchy in 1921. Along with Russia, the UK then pushed Reza Shah into exile in 1941, and his son Mohammad Reza took the throne. In 1953, amid a power struggle between Mohammad Reza Shah and Prime Minister Mohammad Montesquieu, the US Central Intelligence Agency and the UK Secret Intelligence Service orchestrated a coup against Montesquieu's government. Years later, Mohammad Reza Shah dismissed the parliament and launched the White Revolution, an aggressive modernization program that obtained the wealth and influence of landowners and clergy, disrupt rural economics, lead to rapid urbanization and westernization, and promote concerns over democracy and freedom.
Again, the free world is troubled by trouble in Iran. Regarding with anxiety the rioting and plots said to be aimed at overthrowing Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, a ruler who has long been regarded as one of the West's best friends in the Middle East. Iran is a country of recurring earthquakes, and in 1960 suffered from one of the most violent in the nation's modern history. It brought death and destruction to 200 communities scattered over a wide area, and temporarily made untillable hundreds of thousands of agricultural acres, farmlands on which the country's economy greatly depends. Under the personal direction of the Shah, Iran was just recovering from this tragedy when its latest troubles erupted. Ironically, one of the causes of the new rioting was the Shah's land reform program instituted to ease the lot of the country's impoverished peasants at the expense of large landholders. A secondary contributing trouble factor was the Shah's plans for the emancipation of the nation's women. Rioting against this program was led by leaders of a strict Muslim sect opposed to women's suffrage. Tehran, Shiraz, and the holy city of Qom were the scenes of the most violent disturbances, street battling in which 20 were killed and hundreds injured. Iran's army proved loyal to its ruler and in 2 days had the situation in hand. It is one of the best trained and equipped in the Middle East, and more than once has discouraged Kremlin overt acts, though it is now thought that other foreign provocateurs were among the recent troublemakers for His Majesty.
The program was economically successful, but the benefits were not distributed evenly, though the transformative effects on social norms and institutions were widely felt. Opposition to the Shah's policies was accentuated in the 1970s, when world monetary instability and fluctuations in Western oil consumption seriously threatened the country's economy. Still direct in large part toward high-cost projects and programs. A decade of extraordinary economic growth, heavy government spending, and a boom in oil price lead to high rates of inflation and a stagnation of Iran's buying power and standards of living. In addition to mounting economic difficulties, social political repression by the Shah's regime increased in the 1970s. Outlets for political participation were minimal, and opposition parties such as the National Front and the pro-Soviet Students' Party were marginalized or outlawed. Social and political protest was often met with censorship or harassment, and illegal detention and torture were common for the first time in more than half a century. The secular intellectuals, many of whom were fascinated by the populist appeal of Khomeini, a former professor of philosophy in Qom, would have been exiled in 1964 after speaking out harshly against the Shah's recent reform program. The revolution started at 1978, January 9, when thousands of protests in the city of Qom occurred. The security force attacked and killing at least 5 people. At February 18, protests are held in a number of cities to commemorate the 14th day after the death of Qom protesters. At June 7, the Shah replaced the head of the Savak secret police trying to appease protesters. At August 19, hundreds are killed in a recent fire at the cinema Rex in Abadan in southern Iran. Protesters and officials exchanged blame, sparking another round of violence. At September 8, martial law is imposed and security force fired at protesters in Jalian Square in Tehran, killing at least 100 people. The day became known as Black Friday. At October 3, Iraq President Saddam Hussein departs influential senior opposition cleric Ruhollah Khomeini from Najaf in Iraq. On November 6, the Shah broadcast the message "I hear the voice of the revolution" after days of protest. Between December 10 and 11, millions protest across Iran, calling for the ousting of the Shah. At December 29, the Shah appointed a long-time opposition leader, Shapur Bakhtiar, as prime minister. At 1979 January 4, Bakhtiar officially became prime minister of Iran. At January 12, Khomeini formed a revolutionary council to oversee the Shah's exit and transition to a new government. At January 16, the Shah and his wife leave Tehran and fly to Egypt. At January 22, the Shah arrived in Morocco with his entourage. He spent 3 weeks in a palace before going to Bahamas. At February 1st, Khomeini returned to Iran and is greeted by millions of Tehran. At February 11th, Iran General Staff declares the neutrality of the armed force and ordered troops back to their barracks, ensuring the Islamic Revolution succeed. At February 14th, the U.S. Embassy in Tehran is attacked and overrun by the crowd, eventually leaving the embassy aground. At February 16th, the Iran Revolutionary Authorities start executing the leader support of the Shah and kill 4 generals on the rooftop of a school housing Khomeini. On March 5th, Iran resumed oil export. At March 30th, a referendum is held and approximately 99% of voters support the formation of an Islamic Republic. On August 3rd, Iran elects members of the Assembly of Experts for Constitution to write a new constitution for the Islamic Republic. On October 22nd, the Shah arrived in the United States for medical treatment of cancer, a disease he has battled for several years. On November 4th, Iran students stormed the U.S. Embassy in Tehran and take 52 American hostages, demanding the extradition of the Shah in return for their release. At December 15, the Shah leaves the United States and traveled to Panama, which is the end of the Iran Revolution.
So what happens now? That's what I've been trying to assess this week in Tehran, talking to the friends and enemies of Ayatollah Khomeini and experiencing at first hand just how bloody the situation could become. Ayatollah Khomeini returns to a country teetering on the brink of civil war. For the last 7 days, Tehran and other cities have seen violent clashes between troops and demonstrators demanding Khomeini's return. And this week, the crowds have shown that they are ready to fight back, pelting the soldiers with rocks and homemade petrol bombs. Inevitably, the result is massacre. Even though their commander-in-chief, the Shah, is gone, much of the army is still ready to patrol the streets. Day after day this week, the demonstrators massed and went forward. The troops answer their taunts with bullets. Council, which will challenge the Bakhtiar government. He believes that Khomeini is the man to rescue Iran.
In every society, when the people feels that a change, a very strong change is necessary, and they find a man, a religious man, who calls for such change and who tries to lead a movement towards such aims, they will accept him in England too, in Germany too, in America too. I have found a great number of the Western people waiting for a new change in their life too. They aren't sufficient with the life of today. Aren't they sufficient or not?
Has become a powerful mass leader. This week, his followers were on the streets again to demand Khomeini's return. But in spite of the tidal wave behind Khomeini, there are still powerful forces that oppose them. A close friend of the royal family takes off in an army helicopter. From it, he'll observe the marches and then report by telephone to the Shah in Morocco. While many other monarchists have fled the country, Hossein Amir Sadihi is...
Whenever Khomeini decides to step outside the legal framework, these people would be the first to show it. What the hell it means to be a whiff of grape shot.
On April 1st, following overwhelming support and the nation referendum, Khomeini declared Iran an Islamic Republic. Elements within the Sergi Parmati moved to include their former left-wing nationalists, electrical allies from positions of power in the national regime, and a return to conservative social values was enforced. The Family Protect Act, which provides further guarantees and rights for women in marriage, was declared void, and Moscow-based revolutionary bank known as Communists patrolled the street, enforced Islamic code of dressing, behavior, and displaying justice to perceived enemies of the revolution. Throughout most of 1979, the Revolutionary Guards, an informed religious militia formed by Khomeini to forestall another CIA backup, as in the day of Moldavsky, engaged in similar activities, aimed at intimidating the repressed political groups not under the control of ruling Revolutionary Council and its sister Islamic Republican Party. Both satirical organizations owed to Khomeini. The violence and brutality often exists and which had taken place under the Shah. The militaries and the Saracens they supported made every effort to suppress Western cultural influence, and facing persecution and violence. Many of Western education allied fled to the country. This anti-Western sentiment eventually manifested itself in November 1979. On November 4th, 1979, Iranian Family stormed the United States Embassy in retaliation for President Jimmy Carter giving the Shah asylum in the U.S. During the Iranian Revolution, 60 of MC slaves are taken as hostages, but 6 avoid capture and shelter in the home of Canadian Alexander Taylor. With escapes, Situate kept secret. The U.S. State Department began to explore options for separating them from Iran. Tony Mendes, the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency exploitation specialist, is brought in for a consultation. He criticized the proposal but is at the loss when he asks for an alternative. While on the phone with his son, he is inspired by watching Battle of the Planet of the Apes and began plans to creating a cover story of escapes.